Well, greetings, my family and friends. This is your friendly neighborhood people's counselor, Charles Patton. I am here sitting in for Sister Yah Simpson, your favorite community epidemiologist. And we are doing our once a month show. And as usual, we are promoting health equity. Now, this is an AIDS call-in live show, so we also talk a little bit about HIV and AIDS, but our primary focus over the last year has been discussing health equity. We are in the process of really advocating for people of color, particularly, to get the health care that they need. And when I'm talking about health equity, I'm not just talking about medical care. I'm talking about financial health. I'm talking about food health. We're talking about mental health. It's a whole paradigm of things that we need to consider if we are going to be healthy and overcome some of these social ills that has been disproportionately affecting people of color. So once again, this is Charles Patton, the People's Counselor, your PC. And I am sitting in for Sister Yah, and we are representing the organization of Tacts, the Association of Clinical Trial Services. I'm glad you asked, what is Tacts? Tacts is an organization that was formed by me and Sister Yah as a way of talking about getting information about clinical trials. Now, when we think about clinical trials in the form of health equity or in the paradigm of health equity, we have to be clear that if we don't sit down at the table and get involved in this process, a lot of the treatments, we know we're in a country that's truly about treating and not curing much of anything. But when we're in the process of being treated for some of these conditions, a lot of the medications, a lot of the procedures have been tested on other folk. They haven't been tested on us. So we have to get involved and at least get the information so we can make informed decisions about what's going to be best for our health as being people of color. We know that there's been some talk over the years about our metabolism and how we metabolize certain things differently, particularly sodium, sulfur, a couple of other compounds that's in the food supply. We metabolize things a little differently. When you think about what's being done with the medications, a lot of these medications, or all medications, let me put that back, go through clinical trials. But unfortunately, we have been disproportionately involved in these clinical trials. So our concept of the Association of Clinical Trial Services was to make sure that you get the right information. Now, don't misunderstand. We are not advocating any trial. We're not promoting any trials. What we're promoting is getting education about the benefits of being in these trials so that you can make an informed decision and become a part of the solution as opposed to being continued to be victimized or being ill to certain things that we could definitely find better ways to treat and possibly cure. I personally have been going through some things dealing with health, particularly around hypertension, which we know runs rampant in the African American community as well as in the Hispanic community. So I've been personally going through some trials, if you will, where we've been monitoring medications, using different medications, finding things that work best for me, right? And subsequently, what I'm finding is that most of the medications may fix one thing, but then cause problems with other things. So what I've been looking more at is changing my eating habits, because what I'm found in my studies and research is that a lot of the ills that we experience, particularly physical ills, is associated to our diet. Yeah, I said it. And I like me some greens and ham hocks. I like some of them pork chops and rib tips. But now I'm going to have to start to reevaluate. Because as we learn better, we should start to do better. And I know back in the day when those particular items were being shared around the dinner table on a regular basis, we had a different lifestyle. You know, most people did manual labor. We had the stockyards and we had the steel mills, and, you know, those particular diets accommodated that type of work, if you will, or that type of exertion. Now, most of the stuff we do is with these cell phones and computers, you know, and we doing analyzing this and analyzing that, and, you know, we on Facebook this, and, you know, we chatting up with our friends and FaceTiming, and we not doing as much meeting and greeting and walking and running as we should. So subsequently, those diets have become more of a, how can I say, a detriment as opposed to a benefit. So we have to continue to evolve and change the way that we do things based on our lifestyle. You know, most of us work in office spaces, so we're not out in the fields, you know, picking cotton, if you will. Now, we do have a few brothers that's still into the labor force, and they doing the construction work and things of that nature. And also, as a result of some of that, we see that we are going through what's known as an opiate epidemic. Yeah, so that's another one of those health concerns that then kind of resurfaced again, if you will. And subsequently, we see a lot of people getting addicted to painkillers because there's certain things that's happening with the food and certain things that's happening with our lack of activity, you know, and people are getting hurt. And of course, what does the pharmaceutical companies do? They push meds. The medical industry, they push meds, you know, because it's a quick fix. You know, don't get me wrong, I've had my share of those, but I'm also learning that a body in motion stays in motion. You know, I've been doing a lot more exercise, if you will, on my own. I've been doing a little bit more walking than I normally do. I've been trying to get up and down the stairs a little bit more frequently as opposed to taking the elevators. You know, I'm doing a lot of bowling and I'm doing some dancing. And subsequently, I'm starting to see that those activities in conjunction with changing one's diet and other practices has started to reduce some of the ailments that I've been experiencing. You know, what I mean by that is, you know, my joints don't hurt nearly as much. My blood pressure has been regulated with half the medication that I was initially prescribed. You know, so truly, clinical trials is an opportunity for us to get involved in the health process, because health equities is a very serious component to wellness of a community, of a neighborhood, of a race. Okay, so once again, the Association of Clinical Trial Services. Now, we do have some diagrams that we would like to show you. 1 second, please. Now, this is Tacts. And what you see in front of you now is what's called a diversity. With diversity comes a cure. Increased diversity in clinical trials, and I want to acknowledge some of our partners. We got the CFAR, we got Men and Women in Prison Ministries, we got the AIDS Foundation of Chicago, the National Black Consortium, Gender Consortium, as well as FLOW, which is my organization. And we, of course, have, you know, we use our connections with people. Because it's been said to me over time that your net worth is in your network. So we have to truly learn how to work together. Because I know as an individual, I can't do all things. I'm clear about that. You know, but there are some things that I can do and I do well. There are some things that I have to rely on other people to do. I work very closely with the Men and Women in Prison Ministry as well as Tacts, and we do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of things around getting people IDs and making sure that they can have access to information, because that's so important. So important that we get people the right information, because if you haven't heard, misinformation is just as deadly or deadlier than no information. And if you haven't been paying attention, just look around you. We have been victims of propaganda since we got off the boat, right? So we have to start to be clear and discern everything that's being presented. And we can't do that if we're not at the table. We can't do that if we're not paying attention. You know, I noticed they had what they call one of them debates with some of these presidential candidates last night. I think it had to be like close to 8 million people or somebody, they say, tuned in. right? I wasn't one of them. And I kind of hate I missed that piece because we need to know what's going on with these people, what's on their minds if they're going to be representing our interests. And then we need to make sure that we get involved in the process of putting people in positions that can make policy that's going to affect the changes that we need to see. Because if we don't, then subsequently we're going to continue to reap some of the benefits or some of the conditions that we've been experiencing lately. So we have to get involved in the process. So once again, working with your community, working with the aldermen, working with other organizations, that's a part of community health. That's a part of health equity. I know people that can do a few things a little bit better than me. I'm a substance abuse counselor by trade. That's what I do. I talk to people all the time about getting the assistance they need, getting to programs they need to get into. So I truly advocate working for other folks. Okay? And once again, we are looking at some of our slides. This is the next piece. It gives you an illustration of what health equity look like. And I will have our favorite community epidemiologist step in, Sister Ya, who will continue to explain this piece to you and hopefully give you some information. And please call in. We have a call-in number, all right, 312. Let me see here. Yes. But call in, ask your questions, share your information.
All right, thank you. I see you've been busy with this and making sure that people know we are Tacts, the Association of Clinical Trial Services. Hey, I'm your favorite community epidemiologist, Sister Ya Simpson. And as you've been talking with our Vice President of Tacts, Mr. Charles Patton, he has been sharing with you some of our understandings of health equity. Now, one of the things that I like about health equity is that this particular slide really shows that health equity is more about liberation. I hear equality, we're done with that. Equity is where everybody is talking, but where are we going? We're actually going to liberation. And that's some of the concepts of health equity that you don't hear from other people, but you're going to hear from Tacts. So if you wanted to call in at 312-738-1060, as Mr. Patton was trying to look for the number, he couldn't find it. But the point being is if you wanted to call in, you could call in there. But just know that these are the concepts he was talking about. But why am I here? I'm here to talk to you about what is going on in October. So what's going on in October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Once again, we have an awareness of something that we need to deal with as a society, as a family, as a community, and we need to think about solutions that work toward not just domestic violence. I'm going to say work toward all violence. As you can see, Tacts is very much into dealing with violence on several scales, but Domestic Violence Month is what the topic is right now. And what do we really mean by domestic violence? I think we don't really grasp the understanding of people seem to think about, one of the topics was teenage dating. People seem to really think about, spousal abuse. And more importantly, people look at it as male to female abuse. You hear a lot of that. But what we're not talking about is some of the undercurrents, which is there are male to male abuse for those who are in those relationships. There are female to female abuse for those who's in those relationships. What are we really saying? There's violence against people. Domestic is only in reference into it's local, it's here, and it's between normally somebody in a relationship or who are aware of each other. We use that word relationship very loosely, but if there is some type of union, it does not have to be legal. It does not have to be recognized by no priest. I heard that on the news from that lady, like it has to be recognized by a priest. No, it doesn't. In fact, the only reason marriages are now recognized by priests, it happened in 1863, I believe, and you can look my facts up because I just read about this, and that was because there were so many people having what they call union relationships, right, that they wanted it to be they being Protestant Christians wanted it somehow to be sent through their channel so they can count the number of couples that they thought were in unions. That is why they sent it through the priesthood, that the priest would acknowledge a marriage. Now, the cultures of marriage is different and vast and wide. And of course, I know about African culture, which is polyandrous as well as polygamy. Polygamy meaning men with several wives. Polyandry meaning women with several husbands. Hey now. So these cultures aren't new, these unions aren't news, but why am I getting to that point? Because during the Protestant Christian movement, as we talk about couples, it is also unfortunately skewed about domestic violence, in that it looks only at the man that abuses, hurts, physically and mentally abuses women. But we have to recognize that that is not the way relationships work. So domestic being in those relationships, because I took a class with the federal government actually on international violence, and they are referring to people who are trying to either come from a different country and do something in this country, or in this country and try to enact some type of violence in this country as well. So you've heard about different people who are actually born here but who have defied or denied or wanted to give up their recognition of this country and place harm to it. So that's why I have to bring up international violence as well. But violence is violence, you all. So again, I know you all are recognizing that we're saying violence, domestic violence, is in October, and as you can see, the color for it is purple, one of my favorite colors, because the color is for healing. So domestic violence month, there are several programs taking place. I'm aware of the Bobby Wright Mental Health Center. I give them a shout out. They are actually doing their program next week. I think it's the 23rd or the 24th of October. I just found out that In Demand Entertainments is also doing a violence, which is Solomon Arnold. I'm giving him a shout out. His group is doing a domestic violence, and guess what? They work with what we call the LGBTQ community, as in domestic violence in those relationships. So however it is defined for whatever population, the idea is that people are coming together to bring a focus to domestic violence. Now, I've also was told that there's a shout out for breast cancer awareness, but I didn't do any slides for that one today. I do think that could be taken care of at a different time, but I definitely wanted to focus today solid on domestic violence, and it's because it's preventable. What we're not saying to people is they're not utilizing, and I'm sure my counselor, our people's counselor, Mr. Charles Patton, would agree with me, they're not utilizing conflict resolutions, right? Am I right? That's what's at play here. We're having conflicts between human to human, and we're not dealing on our spiritual lives and as it can elevate. I have a conflict that's very much more personal that I may be careful to disclose, but the point of it is I feel domestic violence because it is a relationship that I have to have, I'm mandated to have, but I have to deal with an adverse individual who is not dealing with conflict, but they rather deal with discipline. So here it is that I have to find the strength to deal with someone who has, so they don't have power, but they're in positions to have tactical implications on how it is that I'm able to do my work. And that individual is, unfortunately, it's very clear that they're sick. It's very clear that they prefer damnation and not upliftment. It's very clear that they hate themselves, because only a person who hates themselves continues to want to hate and hurt others. As we've always said, hurt people hurt people. But what can healed people do? They can heal other people. So my approach, I may not be as ethereal as some would want, or spiritual to say that I want that person or that I want to heal that person. I will say I want the person to heal, but I may not be the right person because I'm not feeling them. I actually want a way. But I recognize that as that person has to deal with their demons, I'm dealing with healing myself through my networks and through my people. And I'm very joyous to know and elated to know that angels come in all shapes and sizes and creeds and colors, to be honest. And my colleagues are coming to my rescue to tell me that I am a warrior and that bigger things are coming for me, including our People's Council has said that as well. We have bad moments, not bad days. But I must admit to you, it's difficult when you're suffering through the bad moments at the time. But again, I recognize that and my word for it is imp. That imp is self-hating, self-loathing, is subversive. That imp, if you will, is inept. That imp has no character, no creed, and nothing to do, and only to look at me because they don't like my boogie, baby, honey. I get things done. I move people. I have things, and I'm about moving forward. So when my light shine, their darkness wants to continue. But as Martin Luther King said, hate can't drive out hate, but love can drive love. And I'm not ready to say I'm loving, but I am understanding that darkness is only driven out by light. So let my light shine, honey. Let it shine, let it shine. I am not allowing for a person to take away my happiness, but it was downtrodden to have to be subversive again to something that is not provable, no evidence. And here it is, I'm a researcher, and they're allowing this non-researcher to come at me with no evidence except for the imp's own words, which hold no water, no weight. Nevertheless, that's a type of violence and mental illness, or we should say a mental challenge that we have to deal with. And domestic violence is about conflict resolutions, people who have not dealt with their mental challenges, and more importantly, their spirit just ain't right. So I hope that today that you've been able to hear a different nuance of domestic violence. Remember, it's still violence. Humans enacting hurt onto other humans. And that's what we're dealing with, because they have no conflict resolution. They have no spiritual aspiration. Their darkness is bigger than their light. And more importantly, hurt people hurt people. So what is our solution? Become healed. Now, you may not be able to heal that individual. I can't heal my imp. I ain't ready for that. But I can talk about we're looking at the whole group of people. So I want to thank you so much again for Tacts, the Association of Clinical Trial Services. I'm down to my 1 minute, and I want you all to know that we are here. You can contact us. We have all kinds of programs. Hit me up. Well, don't hit me, but get to me at Tacts for Us on Facebook. That's where I think I do the most connection with. But more importantly, let's stay trauma-informed, violence-free, and healed people as we heal others. Thank you so much for joining.